thought it was really brave of him. I'm proud of him, happy that he took this stand, and hopefully the people that are in the closet will come out as well. Won't be as tentative or scared to.
I think that's courageous coming out. And also, what does that have to do with the game of basketball? You know?
Yeah, agreed.
I think it was a good thing that he came out. It's a lot of pressure when you're in the closet and you have to hide. Just be yourself, play the game, and go Nets.
I think initially you have the older generation who have a problem with it, but I think the new breed of individuals are seeing them for what they are, good sportsmen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm easy with it.
I think it's great. I mean, they're there. They've always been there, and people know it, and I just think it's time for us to step into the 21st century. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't think it should matter to anybody.
And those are some of the fans getting ready for the Nets as they're going to be tipping off pretty soon in Brooklyn outside some of the sound bites from the Barclays Arena here. Let's go to the phone lines. I'll bring the table back in as well. Let's start with Eric calling us out of New York. Eric, what do you think? You think the public's ready for this, or do you think there might be some catcalls and boos from the stands, let alone cold shoulders in the locker room?
First of all, I think it's a wonderful thing. These people that are making catcalls and things like that, there's ignorance everywhere. Okay, these people, the reason why this man is playing this position because he's evidently the best at this position. So that's what they need to look at it for. And then, you also, like when Jeremy Lin came to the Garden, he was of Asian descent. He packed that Garden with ticket buying, product buying people. And that's what we want in sports.
Right. Let's just be on one thing. This is not a star at the top of his particular craft coming out. This is a guy who's been a journeyman player, and in many ways, this is a tougher case. If it was, let's say, a first-team All-Star who came out and did this, I think that would be in some ways easier because the team would have to accept him because they need him. It'll be interesting to see. He's a free agent right now. Would this change any minds to get him? It's not an easy answer to do because we don't know if teams were lining up to get him one way or the other. Let's see what Bob in Philly's got to say. Bob, you're on the line.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good.
I'd like to say I think America's ready for it. But quite honestly, from what I've heard, like when I've heard athletes on talk radio or whatever, and maybe more of them are retired athletes, and maybe it is more of a generational thing. I'm surprised at some of what I've heard from athletes. Some current and some former. And, it's like, come on, isn't this, we're celebrating, what's the big movie now, 42, right? We're celebrating opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I find it hard to believe that, I'm just amazed at some of what I've heard from athletes. And maybe they are former athletes, a lot of them maybe just, and it is a generational thing. But I have more of a concern, if anything.
Well, what's interesting, Bob, and thank you for the phone call, is Dom, one of the wide receiver on the Dolphins, said something along the lines of, he tweeted, hey, with all the girls out there, man, come on, you can do better, or something like that. Immediately, he retracted it. The Dolphins put out like a 2-page condemnation of what he said, made sure they said, be clear, fan base, we welcome everybody, we celebrate. The teams, the leagues, everybody will jump ugly on anybody who shows intolerance here, which shows where this is and where they read, because they're looking out for the bottom line here. And they think that certainly the vast majority of America is ready for this. I also think the younger players, to Jeannie's point, are as well. But that's one aspect of this. If the league sat silent and let whatever happen, that's one thing. They want this thing to go well.
Bottom line is green. The leagues are not going to sit silent on this one. You are correct, Professor. The younger generation, they have less of a problem with this. It's like, what's the big deal? But again, my question is, what happens behind closed doors when everybody's naked, coming out of the shower, amongst the professional athletes?
Well,
that's the
there'll
question.
certainly be some, or you might think maybe an unkind word on the floor itself. Athletes cut across every demographic. There are very religious, very conservative athletes, just as there are any other grouping of people. So there probably will be some athletes who he's playing against.
But it's still a code. I'm just being honest with you. It's still a code, and I support it. But once you go outside this code, the question is, once the PC, political correct argument, can't be seen in public, what's going to happen then? And what happens when he scores in an opposing stadium? And the fans are trying to get in his head.
We can't control. I mean, nobody can control what the fans are going to do. You hope that everybody, sort of make sure that the guy next to them isn't saying something that shouldn't be said. But as for the athletes, I have a feeling the teams and the leagues are going to be cracking down hard on this. So if there's an on-court incident, if there's an opposing player who gives him trouble for his sexuality, I have a feeling that guy will be suspended for a long time.
Now, I've never been in a male athletic, I don't know, room or whatever you call it, locker room. But is it true that they would not know that their teammates were gay? I mean, in my mind, yeah. So then what's the big deal?
I've heard guys talk about, because we've had former athletes come out after they're done with their playing careers. Yeah. And some of the teammates said, I never knew. I wish he said something because I feel bad that he would have thought I wouldn't have accepted him for what he is. I've heard those comments made about whether they've been in the NBA. There have been former NBA players who've come out, NFL players, hockey players, baseball players. Basically, they have. The question I have is, will this open the floodgates? We've heard a rumor here that we've been going on for a month now that 4 NFL players together were all going to come out as a show of unity and strength in numbers or whatever. That hasn't happened. Maybe this will be an impetus to it. We've heard here the same thing. The NHL, the Hockey League, they've gone so above and beyond to say that we are so welcoming. They put out PSAs saying the league wants this. I wonder if this will go out. Now, we've heard from people who've covered, including gay journalists who've covered sports, saying you won't believe the number of gay athletes, closet athletes that have come after this guy. And he said, I'll never expose him unless they ever talk down about legalizing same-sex marriage or about gay athletes as a cover for him. Then I'll expose him. He said, but trust me, there's more than people can imagine. So I think this issue is just beginning here. I think what will be interesting is what the players will say, whether they'll tweet before they get advice from agent or team, and then also what happens when there's a college player. What happens when there's a free agent? Will they be signed or not? I mean, all these questions, but I think it's a healthy conversation to have here, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised, but I've been wrong before. Keep your comments coming, everybody. We have been streaming your comments on the bottom of the screen, so please head over to Facebook and Twitter, make your opinion heard. We take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have Dominic's one-on-one interview with yet another mayoral hopeful. He sat down with Anthony Weiner last week, made some news. Joe Lhota, former MTA chief, and many people believe the odds-on favorite from the Republican side to be the nominee here. He's going to sit down with Dominic and tell him not only what he thinks about Anthony Weiner, but what kind of a mayor he'd make. All that and much more straight ahead.